Ladies and gentlemen, the mullet is back by popular demand. This is not the 6 of 1 comedy show, which you saw last week. That's a different brand of the 6 of 1 football show. This is just straight talking football with two serious cats in Adam and Ian. Welcome back to the 6 of 1 football show.
Never give up on us. Now we're on the road to you. Right now, all our dreams can be made. And we'll be kings of football again. England!
Hello and welcome to the show. If you're watching live now, please smash a like, subscribe. We are the 6 of 1 football show and we're on FTB Sports. Welcome back my regular panel. Hello Adam, how you doing today, mate? You okay?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Glad
Got a
to be
new
back.
haircut as well?
Yeah. I thought I'd get in on the mullet action. Obviously not as brave as you, but as I said, I'm receding a bit, so I've got to be careful how much hair I take off because I don't know whether I'll get it back now. But yeah, feeling fresh.
I think it looks
Cheers,
good,
mate.
mate. Well done. Ian, how you doing?
Yep, I'm recovering after a seriously boozy weekend in Malaga with my elder daughter and friends. But I'm back. Fiesta's over.
It's not such a bad life to be coming back from Malaga and you come back to this kind of weather, you know. But, you know, there's one thing about this weather is it's great for playing football. We've got some football going on at the moment, so we'll keep you updated on those football things. But we're just going to be talking through some of the key pointers since our last show. And I thought the first place we have to start is Kepa and his cup final nightmares. First of all, Adam,
Yeah.
do you think, right, if you're a manager, do you think it's a good idea to bring on a specific penalty keeper for the shootout? Granted, Mendy was having the game of his life and he takes him off and Kepa doesn't save a penalty.
I think I've always thought it's a bit schniddy to kind of do it because it's just like there's always that sort of intention that like you're playing for penalties if you've got that tactic in. But at the same time, you can understand why people do it. But it's obviously funny because he's, as you say, he's brought him onto the penalties and he's just not saved any. So it's like, well, you know, I personally, I would always be in the mindset of the keeper that's played the game. He's up for it. He's involved in, it's like bringing on a substitute. It's always going to change the game. Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the worse. It can go either way. But my instinct would be that if the keeper's had a good game, then he's got, more chance of carrying that on than bringing on someone fresh with just one expectation,
Ian, what's your opinion on that? Because obviously you got to think of what happened with Kepa. I think it was 2 seasons ago when he refused to leave the pitch. Actually, I've got a good little. Oh, you were there. There we go. You got a City fan.
I was
and
there.
GMS Limited says rumor has it Sarri is still celebrating. Obviously, that was a crazy moment. What was that like when you were there?
It was surreal. I mean, you could clearly see he wasn't prepared to go off. He was having a big tussle. He was trying to overrule his manager. And I think he's 26 now. To be fair, he was only 24. I say only 24, impetuous, wanted to play. But, when your manager pulls you off and in front of 100,000 people you diss your manager, I'm sorry, but the lad's got everything coming to him that he kind of deserves from there on in. So I didn't have much sympathy for a tantrum merchant. Actually, I do think there's a strategy. When you look around the Premier League, there are some goalkeepers who are incredible shot stoppers, like I'd put the top David De Gea. I think Spurs, Laureus.
De Gea doesn't save many penalties, though.
But as shot stoppers, I'm just differentiating. There's almost like 2 different sorts of goalkeepers. There's incredibly mobile goalkeepers around, right up the division from Brighton to City to Liverpool, etc. Incredibly mobile goalkeepers who are less good at shot stopping. And then you've got goalkeepers at Spurs and Man United and Palace who are terrific shot stoppers. So, even you look up and down the Premier League and they do come in 2 categories. If I had like Mendy, hypothetically, if I had a goalkeeper I thought was a great all-rounder, but I had a terrific shot stopper on the bench, I'd be tempted.
Adam,
Do you not think it's similar to like, sorry, just on that, do you not think it's similar to like when a team uses all their youth players to get to the final and then drops all the players, you know, for the final and puts in a first team? I think it's got like a similar feel to that, where it's kind of like, well, if that keeper's got them all the way to penalties and kept them in there, then it's just like to not have faith in him in the shootout. But then on the other side, like, I do understand what you're saying. It's like, you know, if you are a team player and you've got a tactic, then rather than be the guy who complains, it's much better to be on board with the tactics.
Wouldn't you think, though, like in that situation, if I'm the manager and I've just watched that whole game of football, and it was a great game, 0-0, but there was so many chances. But Mendy, he had the game of his life. I'd be thinking, no, I'm gonna keep him in. Plus, Mendy's a lot taller than Kepa as well.
Is he?
Yeah, Mendy's pretty tall, isn't he? He's taller than Kepa. Kepa doesn't look. I mean, I could be wrong.
Let's look it up.
I have not
I'm sure he is taller.
You know how this goes.
Kepa's lighter with longer limbs. You know, he's a real spider-like goalkeeper.
I've never seen Kepa save a penalty.
I don't like applauding Jurgen Klopp, but fair play to keep Karius the goalkeeper in goal throughout the tournament without swapping for Alisson.
I can confirm he is much taller than Kepa. Kepa's 1.86 m and Mendy is 1.98 m. So that's a decent height advantage.
Really?
Like, he's a big guy. Yeah.
So Mendy is bigger.
Yeah.
Yes. Good guess.
Yeah.
I can tell.
Good guess.
I could tell I didn't do the research. You know, we don't do research on 601 Football Show. We just throw things out and we research it on the fly. That's how we go. So obviously the next question, I'll start with you on this, Ian. Are penalties too hard to save nowadays? I mean, because you look at the Man United one in Europa League final. I mean, how many penalties was that? That was insane. And then that one, that was 10-10. And they were all great penalties. Is it just really that hard to save a penalty from a goalkeeping point of view these days?
I wonder, hey, Ollie, as you're on Mr. Statistics tonight, I wonder what the statistics say in terms of percentage of missed penalties from open play versus the missed penalties in at the end of the game to resolve it. Because I mean, I still cat my pants when City are taking penalties. Mahrez seems to have mastered it, but Man City went through a stage when we were missing more penalties than we were scoring. We couldn't hit the penalties to save our lives in open play, but then each of the tournaments City went into, they seemed to consistent. So the question, I'd actually retort with the question and say, is there a difference between penalties at the end when you're really thinking about it and a penalty in open play? And
I think we should just concentrate.
Has the texture, lightness of the ball, has it made it more difficult?
I think if we just focus on our penalties after extra time, because in my experience, in my time as a football fan, obviously I'm 38 now, I never saw penalty shootouts go that long, ever, really. I mean, I like to look back at the stats of that as well and see how many penalty shootouts have gone further than the 5.
There's a few like notable ones I think that have gone like ridiculous. I remember having one on Pro Evo online that went up to about 30 all, like, which was crazy. It was like unbelievable.
No,
but I think there are
Pro Evo anymore.
Yeah, I know it don't exist. It's terrible. It's a bitter subject. But I think there is a couple of like anomaly international games where I think they have gone to a ridiculous number. I'll be interested to see like the level. Last time I was in front of an 11-a-side goal, I did think this is massive from the penalty spot. Do you know what I mean? It's like it feels so big that it definitely feels harder to miss than it is, you know, to score. I think that the favour is always on the player taking the penalty than it is on the goalkeeper. Like when you stand in front of a full-size goal, it's huge. Do you know what I mean? So there's a massive psychological thing. I think Ian's point, I think there probably is a bigger statistic for people missing in shootouts. I don't know whether that's true with Arsenal though, because we've been pretty crap at like putting away penalties in actual games, but shootouts we've got like Ainsley Maitland-Niles just like strolling up and like toe punting it in, you know. So but I do think it's I don't think they're too hard. I think it's still, I love penalties. You know, I can remember my first penalty shootout, you know, like in 1990, like the World Cup there, watching that. I love the feeling, especially as a neutral when it goes
Roberto
to penalties.
Baggio, wasn't it, who missed the... Didn't Roberto Baggio talking about Ollie's haircut?
That's
That
what I
is
was going to say.
that is a bit of a
Pretty sure
Roberto
he had a
Baggio.
That was 94, I
Yeah,
think, wasn't it? 94 with Brazil, I think. So it's
Maybe
like the 91 was the Gaza and Stuart Pearce misses.
Maybe that is the difference, though. Like, and obviously, I remember penalties from a pure kind of international standpoint because we've seen so many, and maybe because when it's internationals, there's so much more on the line for it. It feels like there's more on the line because you don't see
Waddle.
England that much. Yeah, exactly. So he had a good
Southgate.
South. I mean, all of them. So maybe I think of it from an international thing, whereas really in club football, I haven't seen that many personally, but then I only watch Arsenal. So GMS Limited said that Kepa played most games in the F Cup and saved 4 pens in the shootouts on the way. So there we go. That must have been the reasoning behind it. He also says, do sports psychologists have any part to play in the shootouts?
They would have to. If you look at England in the last World Cup or in the Euro, the amount of like sort of emphasis, especially for England because of our history, that is on penalty taking. I think it's crazy to think that they don't have some sort of psychological approach to that because they'd have to. You know, it's as you say, the difference with walking up into the opposition fans after the game's finished, having all of those people screaming at you, knowing that the whole country, rather, you know, is sort of.
But we've forgotten something. We've forgotten something, chaps. Obviously, a penalty in play, you have all the opposition players around you, yeah, because they can run on.
Yeah.
But a penalty at the end of the game, they're in the centre circle, so you're on your own. You're kind of more focused, less distracted. If you've got some boneheads screaming in your ear from the opposition, which they probably do, maybe it is easier at the end without the distraction.
There you go.
But then also with that, the walk, there's that, you know, without the distraction, you've maybe not got other people, but all you have to do is wait. Everyone's there. You take that run up from the edge of the box. You've got that whole psychological sort of journey from the centre spot to the box. And no matter how confident you are when you're in the centre spot, you know, and how is it that whenever we watch a penalty shootout, we can tell by the player's face before he takes it whether he's going to miss or score? You know, it's so you see him and you're like, he's going to miss it. You just know it because you can see whether they've lost it in their eyes.
I was gutted when Saka stepped up.
Oh, so was I.
I was like, no, please don't. I felt
like he'd score. I felt like he'd score. Like,
I thought he was going to score, but I was just like, please don't. And it obviously,
but there's still the drama. I mean, do you guys ever put any money on for a bet? I don't really. But would you have put money on Middlesbrough scoring all their penalties against United in that FA Cup knockout? Because I wouldn't.
No. But I think that's the thing with penalties, isn't it? It's like all bets are off the table,
I think that's the point, though, isn't it? Are they becoming easier? Like, it's easier to score. The advantage is firmly in the attackers.
Maybe.
But then I've seen penalty shootouts recently where, you know, loads of them have been saved or missed, and it's like 2-1 after 5 penalties. You know, like, so I think it can go either way. But I think from the perspective of how big the goal is, how the distance, a professional footballer should generally always be hitting the target. Do you know what I mean? And I think part of the penalties that you see saved are the penalties where people have been like not had confidence to just go and smash it in. And I think that's the point with Kepa. You know, it's a really interesting one because I don't know whether you remember, but David Seaman took a penalty in a charity shield against United, I think it was. And I think he just hit the worst little P roller, and it, like, you know, pretty much Schmeichel just like stopped it straight away. And I remember Ian Wright talking afterwards how, like, when they were, you know, practicing in training and stuff, you know, they'd take penalties and stuff, and then they'd swap around, and Wright, you'd go in goal, and Seaman had smashed the ball at him. And he said a couple of times he got his hands to David Seaman's one, and he felt like he'd broken his hand because, like, obviously the guy takes goal kicks, and he said he would just lever it. Now, he said he couldn't understand why that day Seaman, he's like, oh, he's just going to lever it in. He's gone up, he's tried to place it, done a, you know, daisy cut a P roller right into the keeper's arms. Now, in Kepa's head, as he just thought, well, I do this in training all the time, and I just absolutely lever it. And, you know, gone up, tried to do that, and then sent it into orbit. Do you know what I mean? It's getting the
great jokes on the back of it. There was even, I can't remember, Jeremy Clarkson, even on his Twitter page or whatever, had some impression of a ball coming out of the sky, because he's a Chelsea fan, and he caught it. And there's been all sorts of beauties. But
yeah, I did feel a bit sorry for him, but you missed it, and that's that. I'm sure we'll come back to penalties again when someone gets knocked out of another.
We could have them tonight.
It could.
Oh, I'd love a neutral.
I'm watching Spurs on one TV screen. I'm looking at Man City 0-0 with Peterborough half time. Just started the second half. 75% possession, 9 shots, but none on target for City and 1 on target for Peterborough.
Peterborough playing out of their skins. It sounds like if Peterborough knock you out the cup, then you might as well give it to Tottenham.
City have got a strong team out there, and bearing in mind they've got United at the weekend, I thought that was a bit, balls out.
There we go. Well, we'll keep you up to date on the FA Cup ties, guys. Next one I want to come to. I'll come to you first, Ian. Now, I was looking at the City versus Tottenham game. I'm thinking, this is a banker. Easy win for City. There's no way Spurs are going to beat them. How on earth, the one game that I wanted City to win so much, did you lose that game? And as a result, is it opened this title race up again, and it's almost it's between the two teams again?
Well, the only 2 nemesis teams that City have ever really had in the last few years have been Leicester and Spurs, and both teams played exactly the same tactics, really compact, 11 men behind the ball, but with really good pacey strikers. And you look at the possession stats, and City were their normal selves. It's, when Vardy was at his height, do you remember when City lost 5-2 earlier of last season? And City were ripped apart on the break and still had 75% possession and lost bloody 5 goals. So the first thing I would say is the style of play that Spurs put together is City's worst nightmare. And I'm surprised more teams, I'm not surprised more teams don't play, because most teams, and I'm a bit sorry, you're not going to like this, lads, but don't have the ability to play the Harry Kane Son double act. They just don't, and those 2 are archetypal in that, and that was City's undoing.
It's similar to a Rooney Ronaldo, though. A few years back, United, when they were successful with them, were very, very similar. Quite defensive, and then on counter attack, Rooney and Ronaldo were just devastating. But yeah, I think exactly what you said, Ian. Like, it's with the amount of possession that they had, it's such a weird. It's anti-football, but it works, doesn't it?
It's City have 2 Achilles heels. One, if a team's really, really well disciplined and well marshalled, hitting them on the break like Leicester and Spurs, and the other is if you've got an incredibly high energy team that presses the hell out of City at the back, the way Liverpool had a good go at them over the last couple of seasons. If you get that. And remember, and we'll probably come on to this team a bit later, but do you remember Leeds doing really well against City when I think they took 4 points off City last season? And again, that was because Leeds were at their height of pressure, pressing football. So, yeah.
So do you think, Ian, are you worried now that, Liverpool could hunt you down?
I'm worried. By the skin of their teeth against Everton, by the skin of their teeth, did City get over the line. There was 2 points being dropped all night long for ages and ages and ages. But that's football, isn't it?
What did you think that was a handball from Rodri?
Yeah, but the question was whether it was offside in the build-up to that handball. Everyone's focusing on the handball, but we haven't got clarity of whether the decision was on the handball. But
the refs have apparently already apologised to. I've read that today that they've apologised to Everton, so that would suggest that they didn't think that there was an offside in the build-up. And again, it's like I'm not dissing anything. It's nothing to do with City. In terms of that decision, it's more to do with the referees for me, because it is just again another example of the inconsistency, and it's difficult. There's nothing to say that they would have scored that penalty. That wasn't a guaranteed point. As Lampard seems to think they were stolen, robbed of a point, because there's no guarantee you still got to put it away. You can, the apology doesn't really do much, does it? Obviously,
I'm not certain it's worth it for a Lampard to get an apology. Well, whoopie do, because I was interesting. It was Keith Hackett, if you remember him as a ref, was doing the analysis on the City Spurs game. and he called that last goal that Kane scored right on the 96th minute. Was offside in the build-up and shouldn't have stood. So you've got to face in a season, you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. All VAR has done is improve this situation. It'll never be perfect, and you've got to. That's football.
Adam, do you think it's definitely between City and Liverpool now?
I don't know. I'm looking. It's mathematically possible. No, it's City and Liverpool. That Liverpool win their game in hand. 3 points in it. You still got to play. If you still got to play Liverpool again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's
City playing at City. They first got to get past United on Sunday, and that's
which I think he'll do it.
The derby is never good on form, and United have a stupidly successful history with City in recent years.
Talking about United, Solo says, "Good evening, gentlemen," from the Man United agenda. Good evening.
Hi, Errol.
He says, "Come on, Peterborough."
Bollocks.
And he also says, "United will be back next season to challenge for the league." There you go.
Yeah, which league?
Next season.
Europa League, yeah.
And then but again, VAR City.
Varsity. Yeah, that's quite clever.
Yeah, Varsity. There we go. So, I mean, let's go on to, I guess we're talking about the title race. Are you worried then, Ian, about the game against Man United? Is it at Man United?
Liverpool are a fantastic team. I'm not going to take anything away. They're at full strength. Everybody's fit. Great goalkeeper, fabulous, sensational fullbacks, and a forward line just to die for. I mean, adding the Diaz guy to their forward line is almost taking the piss. They've just got to get a steady midfield back. Liverpool might not lose another game.
Well, Solo's saying United will beat City 2-1.
I'd always be worried going to a derby. Shit happens in the derby, And
I think you've just dropped, for me, in recent memory, though, it just feels like you've just drubbed them so many times, like in recent memory.
Not in the times when City were actually dominant. Yeah. It's funny, when City have had those big ones on United, it's tended to be where there's a bit more evens, but
also, Man United haven't lost a game in a while, so realistically, you probably see it as a draw if you were looking at it from a gambling perspective.
Well, they managed if he watched Spurs, he knows how to play.
You think he's going to?
Yeah, I think the point that you made, I don't think they can necessarily do that though.
No, I
don't think they've got like the players to actually do it, and like the way Maguire's been playing like this season, he's culpable. Do you know what I mean? And I think like it just takes one little thing, and I think it's the favours for me. Like it's for Man City to lose. Still, every game is for Man City.
I wouldn't play Maguire against City. I would play Lindelof and Varane, but
don't want to give them any. Don't give them any hints.
They played a back three in the last game, didn't they?
Ian, I've never heard you this downbeat about Man City.
Yeah, I'm worried. It's hey, you ain't got hot, sweaty scouts of breath on your neck. You'd be bloody worried as well. So yeah, I am. I'm always worried. There's this great quote from Noel Gallagher. He was interviewed after a cup final that City played, one of the more recent ones, and they said, it must be fantastic. You must be really getting used to this success. And he leant into the camera. He said, at my age, you never get used to this success. I'm not one of those young lads running on the pitch. You think it's going to be taken away from you tomorrow. So you always worry. If you've lived through all those decades of shit football, you still cack your pants as a City player every time there's a crucial game.
Adam, do you think
it's in your DNA now?
Do you think Liverpool? First of all, what do you think the City United score's going to be?
I mean, City at home, yeah.
Yeah.
I think City will win comfortably. I think especially in the situation. I might be wrong, but I feel like especially in the situation of where they kind of are, they have got Liverpool breathing down their neck. I think they're all good enough competitors. They're all good enough professionals to know what's at stake and know that it is a must-win game. Because if they win, like they win this, they get a draw at Liverpool, or even if they win this, they even get a loss at Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? Like every other game is winnable for City. So I think you would have said the Tottenham one, but as you say, they are just like a bogey team. Tottenham Classic, and
they
beat
got
City,
held by Southampton.
and then
Yeah,
go
they
and
lose to
get beaten
Palace.
by Burnley the next week. It's. But yeah, I think, personally, I think City. If both teams are on form, City should win it comfortably for me.
So what
Middlesbrough 0, Spurs 0. Middlesbrough attacking.
Come on.
Some exciting ties in the FA Cup this evening. Loads
City,
of goals.
56 minutes, it's 0-0.
Penalties.
Oh, I love some penalties tonight. Some Spurs going out on penalties. I love you, even
Ian, what your score is going to be then, mate?
Against City United.
Yes.
3-2 City. I think it's going to be a dinger.
There we go. We'll see what happens. So leading on from that, obviously, me and Adam want Man United to at least drop points there. So, I mean, I want a City win, ideally, because then I think we can go above.
They've got an incredibly strong team out tonight, and yet they've got to play the derby on Sunday. I'm surprised.
He's worried. He's really worried.
Well, United have got a whole week's rest as well. So yeah, of course I am. This
is what you got to deal with, though. If you're going to be the big dogs.
Yeah.
Hey, when was the last time you did a double?
Last year. League Cup and League.
That's not the real double.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go back to the top four race. Obviously,
I mean, we haven't even asked the question: could Liverpool win 4 trophies?
Never.
Nah.
Never.
Hope not, but
I think Man City will win the league. You know what? I hate to say it. I see Spurs winning the FA Cup.
No, it's not going to happen. They're going out tonight. I'm making it happen, mate. Believe. You know me. Believe.
Those Spurs players, a really cold night in Middlesbrough.
Well,
anyway,
we obviously
35 minutes 0-0.
There we go. That's the update for all the fans watching now. If you're watching as well, please like and subscribe. FTV Sports 6-1 Football Show. Here we go. Got another good comment for you. 2-1 and United and Viva Ronaldo to get the winner. There we go. So.
Yeah, get your Zimmer frame out, Ronnie.
But that might be a biased opinion. But in terms of the top 4 race, I've done some mathematics. I actually did some research on this. And I went through my phone and I counted all of the games that Arsenal, if we win, and this doesn't include beating or whatever happens with Chelsea, Tottenham and Liverpool, who we still have to play, then statistically we can get enough points that will get us in the top 4. Adam, do you think?
I think our top 4 situation is similar to Man City's league situation. It's like it's ours to lose. We've got 3 games in hand. Have we 2 or 3 games in hand?
3 games.
That takes us up. Even like with those games to be equal with Chelsea after those, we will be 2 points behind them, still having to play them. We should be, like someone else said it, we shouldn't be thinking about 4th now, like the run we're on, especially after the Wolves game, the way that finished.
13 games, only 1 loss in 13 games.
We should be looking at 3rd.
That was cheated against us by Man City, but we won't go back to that.
No, we won't. That's it. It's in the past. Yeah. But it's
what are the toughest games you got left?
We've got Liverpool.
So we've got Spurs and Liverpool and Chelsea.
We're beating Spurs. Like I think
away those Spurs.
And we're beating them. Ollie. I won't even. You know me. I'm saying what I want.
How late in the season is the Spurs game?
It hasn't even been rescheduled yet. I think it's going to be the last game of the season.
Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if it was the last game of the season?
That's it. They're holding both Chelsea and the Spurs game.
That's what they want. They want it to be like another cup final essentially, and that's how they'll build it all. But it will be a great. But I hope that by that time our top 4 is cemented because we've got enough games in hand to do it. I know there's the whole points on the board are better than games in hand, but we've got Watford next. In the next 5, we've got Liverpool, we've got Villa, we've got Palace. I can't think who the 4th or the game after Watford is. But of those games on the form we're on, Liverpool are the only people that we should really be scared of, I think, in terms of being scared of Liverpool.
I feel we can get a draw out of Liverpool.
Oh, City have scored!
Oh, great, Kitty!
Yes,
thank God for that. City have broken
0
down.
City won.
Mahrez.
Riyad Mahrez left foot shot from the right side of the box at the bottom left corner.
It wasn't a
Assisted by
penalty.
Phil Foden. Let's
Well,
hope
that's it
there's
then.
no VAR. There may be a VAR looking at
City
it.
have won the FA
Oh,
Cup.
you'll definitely get it then. You'll definitely get it if VAR's looking at it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there will be if it's at Peterborough, will they? Because they won't have it at that stadium, so they shouldn't.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't think
that's
there'll
a
be
good
VAR
point.
there tonight.
Right.
Yeah, goal.
There you
goal.
got away with
It's-
one.
yeah.
You've
Yeah.
definitely cheered me up there, Adam. Thanks.
But yeah,
I
in terms
actually
of
want
like, say,
City to win the FA Cup, personally. I'd rather City win it than Spurs or Liverpool or
I
Chelsea.
mean,
Well,
I don't care anyone, just not Tottenham for me. Just
there
not
is a team
Tottenham.
I'd love to see win the FA Cup. I'd absolutely love it, and that's Crystal Palace. Come on.
I'd personally like
Shouldn't ever
Forest
say
to
stuff
win
like
it.
that.
I'd like
Wouldn't it be
Forest to
great
win it. I think the
if-
way Forest
if-
have played in their last couple of games against like bigger opponents, I think they've got a good thing going. It'd be really nice for the FA Cup as well to get those old games where you get like maybe a top team and one of the lower clubs that's made it all the way to the final. I remember Dennis Wise did it a few years ago and had a
Wisey.
bit of a comedy appearance, didn't he? Just jumping all over the players.
Sorry, I think it was one of Spurs' new players. He had an open goal and just hoofed it over the bar.
Oh, lovely.
No.
That's my vibe. That's my vibe in here, and I'm making that happen with my.
I think
He's
he's
good at-
put in
Adam,
the
you're
space
good at
Kepa, but
that.
his penalty.
You've got to
You're good
believe.
at-
It's all
you're
about
good at that.
believing.
Let's go to the FA Cup then, because we'll come back to the top four race. Actually, no, we'll finish our top four discussion because I liked what Adam you were saying. So statistically, you think we're going to do it?
I feel like we've got to do it. The way we're playing at the minute, like the games we've got, the next 5 games, as I say, Liverpool's the only game that we should feel like, we might lose that. But I think the way we're playing at home, I think Liverpool could come there, and I may sound stupid saying this in a few weeks if they drub us, but I feel like the way we are playing at home, people should be a bit more sort of fearful and cautious coming to play us, because we are playing some really good attacking football at the minute. You see the amount of shots that we had in the last couple of games, especially against Wolves, who haven't conceded, haven't lost the game in 50 games after going ahead. Like the mentality that it takes to come back.
It's also Arteta's first ever time he's gone from being down at half time and won a game.
Well, you see the difference as well. Like he's taken, he took off Cedric, didn't he, and put on Pepe. And like obviously Pepe, credit to him, he come on and he had an amazing impact on the game. Which was huge. But just the psychological aspect of that, a few years ago when Welbeck did it against Leicester, when no one else had beaten Leicester, and Welbeck went and scored in the last minute, it was a similar sort of thing, because we should have been the springboard to go on, and we should have won the title that season. But this year, obviously, we're not in the title race, but that sort of performance should be the springboard to go, right, we've just done that against a team which has been pretty much impenetrable at the back for like the last 15 games. We've got, and we are playing really good attacking football. We're not scoring as much, but we're shooting loads, and that's what you need to do to score.
Wolves lost their manager to Spurs at the beginning of the season, Nuno Sanchez. They'd lost Jota to Liverpool. Their main striker had a terrible head injury he was coming back to. Who would have ever thought that Wolves would be chasing Spurs down at this moment in time? Because they're right on the heels of Spurs. Who would have
That's
thought
it.
that?
I mean,
Everyone,
the top four races.
Lots of people I spoke to thought Wolves could go down.
Well, I think when Nuno went, it was like kind of like the
Southampton.
Wolves project is maybe over, because obviously Wolves coming up with like Nuno getting a lot of those Portuguese players through like the agent, playing really well in their first season, and not just like staying up, but playing some really attractive like attacking football. Some really good players. Some of them have gone, but you think when Nuno went to Spurs, that's kind of the end of the Wolves project. And the fact that he's really inexperienced as well, isn't he? Like the
Bruno Lage.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's only got maybe one more game than Arteta at the top level.
Yeah, and pretty much their best player from last year, Pedro Neto. I love him. He's only 21. He's a Portuguese player. He's been out for 10 months. They're easing him back in. So again, they've done it without as well.
And as well, Jota,
incredible
like another player who was obviously a massive loss. But for Wolves, what he's gone and done at Liverpool and everything's been pretty amazing as well. But yeah, I think we've as I say, it's ours to lose at the minute. Like of those games in hand, of the next 5 games, there's only one which is questionable in my head. The way we're playing, we should be beating all of those teams.
Okay, so give me 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. Who's going to
Arsenal
make?
4th.
I'm going to go
Arsenal
Arsenal.
third. I'm going Arsenal third.
4th.
I'm going Arsenal
Arsenal
third.
3rd.
Chelsea 4th. I'm believing,
Love that.
mate. It's all about
Okay,
belief.
so who's going to come 5th?
United.
United
I
5th.
agree.
No, we're forgetting about West Ham here.
I think that.
I don't think they've got enough to get in there.
Yeah,
All right, so
I
who
mean,
comes 6th then?
they got a massive result against Wolves, didn't they?
I think Spurs are going to come 5th.
I think
No,
Spurs are
sixth. I think United will pip Spurs.
Yeah.
I think Conte's got more toys to throw out yet.
All right, let me just look at the table.
Many
Right,
draws.
I want to look at the table and I want to see what I want to happen. Yes,
Also
that's the thing is that I'd love West Ham to finish above Spurs because the banter that those two clubs have, it would just be amazing for West Ham to finish above Spurs. But Tottenham have got 2 games in hand and are 3 points behind, so it's unlikely that you know. But then it's Tottenham, isn't it? You know,
West Ham are in the Europa League, so and then
Yeah,
they're still in the FA Cup. West Ham as well.
Still Middlesbrough 0 to Spurs 0, very nearly half time. Spurs have had an incredibly high pressure last 15 minutes though.
High pressure. Okay.
It was actually Doherty who hoofed it over the bar. I got the play wrong.
He scored the other day though, didn't he? He did score.
Yeah, West Ham are still in the FA Cup. They've got Southampton tomorrow.
Right,
City have scored a second goal.
Yes. Come on, City.
My word!
It's haircut boy Jack Grealish.
Oh, who'd have thought it?
Jack Grealish.
He's finally sobered up.
What a player. I did like that video.
His hangover's just ended this morning.
I did love that video. I didn't know that this still happened, the Monday Club, you know what I mean? But he was far on that. So, all right. So, West Ham have got Southampton tomorrow. Obviously, Spurs are still drawing now. It looks like City are going to go through. And then we're at the
Newsflash, Palace have scored.
great. The man who wants to see the team he wants to see win the FA Cup over his Man City Crystal Palace.
Hang on, let me quantify this. If City win the league and the Champions League, I'd be very happy to see Palace win the FA Cup.
No, I would say you want to take it all, surely.
No.
Take that treble off United.
Yeah.
Rub it in their faces.
So it's the quarterfinal stage next round. Who are you thinking you're going to get next round, Ian?
God knows. As long as it's not Palace, I really don't want to do that.
I certainly want it to be Palace now.
Middlesbrough? Middlesbrough. Yeah, I'll say.
I think Spurs are going to go through. I think.
But I mean, if Spurs do go through, you probably don't want them either, do you?
No, you can't beat
definitely
Spurs.
don't want Spurs. Definitely don't want Spurs. But and don't want Liverpool.
But it'd be nice to see Liverpool versus City in the cup as well. Chelsea still in it?
Yeah, Chelsea, Luton, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like so, Luton are the.
Flying
I mean,
home.
Boreham Wood are still in it as well, aren't they? Like,
oh yeah, I'll take Boreham Wood.
Yeah, that's it. We've got to beat Everton first, so.
Well, it's not impossible.
Yeah, no, that's it. Just need a bit of a VAR on their side. It's at Goodison, so there'll be VAR. Get a nice dodgy handball.
Surely that not even Everton can cock that up. Surely.
No, you wouldn't have thought so. But it's, I mean, Spurs lost to Colchester United a few years back,
Everton, Liverpool in the quarterfinal. That'd be good.
Yeah, it'd be tasty.
Yeah, I mean, all of the teams we've mentioned. I mean, you would expect them to go through to the quarterfinals.
Well, Forest have got Huddersfield as well. So, I mean, you would expect the way Forest are playing there at home, you would expect them to be there as well.
Yeah, nobody would want to go to Forest.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a hard game, you know.
I think Man City would tear them apart.
But I think the thing is, though, it's like you see the way
if that was the quarterfinal tie at Forest, I'd take it.
But the way that I said before, you know, the way we played, we were terrible. But then the Leicester result, as I say, it made us not look as bad because that's a great result to get against Leicester, isn't it? You know, and I think on a cup run, they're doing pretty well since they've got the new manager. They've been pretty solid and like they just seem to be absolutely at it every time I've seen them. Like the energy level is pretty much unheard of, I think, for a championship team in like for the times I've seen them like recently. So
I do miss
think
the
they're
FA
dark
Cup.
horse.
I mean, I've got so many great FA Cup memories. I remember
We'll talk
when
about FA Cup memories. Ollie, were you listening earlier? What's
I
this
was.
all about?
You told me I've seen the shirt before, Ian, but you tell the guys.
This is the 1969 FA Cup winning shirt.
And you were there.
No, I can't remember. The first cup final I can remember, I properly remember as a little
I'm
kid.
joking.
The league. I did remember as a little kid the League Cup final in '75 when Dennis Stewart scored an overhead kick. But '69 was Colin Bell, Mike Summerby, Francis Lee. But the goal was scored by Neil Young, not.
No, the singer. I was going to say
not Heart of Goal Neil Young.
Yeah.
Wow. Who'd have thought
Harvest Moon.
Neil Young. Oh, that's a good little trivia one then.
Yeah.
Like footballers that are named after famous musicians.
Rock stars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neil Young.
Is Neil Young? Is there any more?
Harvest Moon.
Just the one.
Yeah.
Can we think of any others? Name that.
There must be. What about Gallagher? No, it's Conor Gallagher. It's a shame.
We'll come
Bono.
back to that one. My challenge by the end of the show, I'm going to come up with someone.
There's got to be one more out there, isn't there? There's got to be one more.
Yeah.
A Mick Hucknall.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Jeff Horsfield. Oh dear. All right, moving on. Well,
Jeff Horsfield and the Stable Hands. Yeah.
I did love Jeff Horsfield. I always used to play with him on Pro Evo. Actually, I used to make sure he was up front. And I had an ongoing joke that he played for Brazil. It kind of became a common theme that he. Everyone forgets Jeff Horsfield actually played for Brazil, and he was the lead singer in Led Zeppelin. So, next topic. What next for Leeds? Obviously, they've confirmed the new manager coming in, haven't they?
Yes, he's the guy. He's the American guy who was at Leipzig for a while and Red Bull. He was the Red Bull stable for ages. He's done a lot of bullshit.
But it's not confirmed yet, though.
I thought it was. No.
Let's have a look. I think it is.
Is it confirmed?
Yeah, it is. Oh, but he's an American professional soccer coach.
That's just got Ted Lasso written all over it. I
Yeah.
mean, we've had it at Man United. The old Ted Lasso jokes.
It will take him a year to even understand what the Leeds fans are saying.
Yeah.
Hey, Bayek, game shouldn't be played like that out yonder. All right, lad. Yeah.
I've not really heard of this manager, so I can't really comment. But I mean, if I look back on the American managers that have come into the game, and none of them have been very good.
Did Fulham have one?
Yeah, they did. What was his name?
I can't even remember, which says a lot.
This is where the
about,
research comes in.
Yeah.
The research.
That's what Google's for.
And
mate.
let's just put it in. Best
US managers.
US managers.
Well, I think
while you're doing that, shall I tell you about my trip to Leeds last weekend?
Oh yeah, of course.
Right.
You went to Leeds. Did you guys? Bob Bradley. Bradley. He was all right.
Bob Bradley. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Bob Bradley. Yeah. Oh gee. Yeah. Now, first of all, I was born and brought up in Manchester. Moved to Yorkshire when I was 11 with Dad's job, and in my very early teens, I think I was. It must have been when I was 11. We just moved up, and this is going to really age me because I saw play Johan Cruyff at Ellen Road. I was 11, and my dad took me to the game. I always remember it. And years later, in the O'Leary years, I saw Lothar Matthäus play at Ellen Road. I can remember that. So, and they were the real bad old days of Ellen Road. Bricks over the stadium all the time, buses on fire, fights everywhere. It was monster times at Ellen Road. So I hadn't been to Ellen Road this century. So I've lived in London for ages and ages and ages, and just come back to Yorkshire. This was my first trip to Ellen Road in 25 years.
How was it?
Well, the place is knackered and broken. The ground hasn't been touched since I left there 25 years ago. And it is bizarre. It is kind of like the land that time forgot. It's like it's left, everywhere around the ground is kind of derelict. You know, the screen, you can't see the screen. It's hidden under one of the stands, the PA systems. But
sounds like a joyous occasion.
it was we had these like chicken nuggets and chips, and it was the most awful food we have ever had. The beer was awful, the food was awful.
Right, everyone knows you don't buy the food in the grounds.
Yeah. Well,
I
don't know. The gourmet burgers and pies at Fulham are nice, and the ale at Palace is good that Neil Morrissey brews. But apart from that, yeah. Firstly,
James Morrison. It's James
Morrison.
James Morrison.
Yes.
He's a singer, isn't he? When you said Neil Morrissey, it just happened. No, it just happened when you said Neil Morrissey.
Shit! Newsflash: Stoke have equalised at Palace.
Oh
no!
Christ. But
Dirty
you've
Stoke.
been thinking about that,
No, literally, when he said Neil Morrissey, I thought, is there a footballer called Neil Morrissey? And I was like, no, it's James Morrison.
James Morrison. That is knowledge is the bomb.
We got one.
You didn't Google it, did you?
Oh, no, I didn't. Not with stuff like that. I would have, but when he said it was a challenge, it's kind of like, nah, you got to do it.
Yeah, well done. I wouldn't have got
Purist.
that. I mean, I've only just got David Wagner. He was American, apparently. Didn't know that. Remember David Wagner?
Who
did he manage Brentford or
Huddersfield?
Huddersfield, you're right. No, he was German, wasn't he, David Wagner?
It says here he was the second American to manage in the Premier League. Was David Wagner in 2015?
I could have sworn he was German or Austrian or something with a name like Wagner.
Yeah, the thing is, I always think Jurgen Klinsmann's American now when you hear him talk.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It says in this article here that he's American.
Well, there you go. Didn't know. Hang on. So, what the heck's?
Anyway,
this is the goal against Palace for Stoke.
Back to your salmonella.
Yeah, so Leeds, you've got salmonella from the Nuggets.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a ferocious game. It absolutely was tipping it down. It was the most bonkers conditions I've ever seen. Everyone sliding all over. And what can I say? It was predictable 2 or 3 weeks running. You know, United scored twice. They were the best of the team. And to be fair to United, I always like to give them a hard time, but they got stuck in the mud.
Should Scott McTominay been sent off? Because I heard that he went around.
He should have been sent off twice, but it was so hard to determine what was a fair tackle, a sliding tackle. It was chaos.
This is the point. If it was an Arsenal player, he probably would have been sent off.
It was, but you know, Bielsa, I suppose he had no choice. You know, I had to do all these subs early in the second half. And they got the 2 goals back. And obviously, the Leeds fans are going crazy. But, you know, United have got such a depth of talent on the bench that when the 3 fresh new players came on, you kind of knew what was going to happen. Leeds ran out of steam. They really ran out of steam. So coming away from the game, I thought Leeds are going down. I saw the next few games, and then they got whipped, and they got 10 goals put past them in the next 2 games. And you could see it coming. You know, I'm going to be critical of Bielsa. He's probably a wonderful guy. He's done fantastic to get them where they are. But you've got to be a situational leader. You do have to adapt. You can't just play. Firstly, you can't just lose your 2 best players in Calvin Phillips, the spine of the team, and Bamford, who would hold the ball up front. You can't lose those 2 players.
What has happened to Bamford?
They've both been injured all season, but you can't continue the gung-ho tactics. You know, it's naive, it's madness, it's playground stuff. You know, it's almost as though he wanted to leave to continue that. All he had to do was just tighten it up, get a bit more regimented. You have to adapt.
I think to be fair to Leeds as well, like they have all season, they've really struggled with injuries this season. No, I was saying earlier, like my brother-in-law is, you know, a Leeds fan, so he like often have a chat with him about Leeds and stuff. And, you know, I think the sentiment there is similar to what you've said, that like there's with the ownership, there's been some pretty questionable people in terms of the ownerships that they've had, and like whether they actually want to invest. You know, I think the reason why they've been successful is because they've got the right managers at the right time without really investing and doing the things that the owners need to do. You know, they did really well with Grayson a few years ago, like getting back up to the chat, because, you know, you've got to remember Leeds were massive. Like he always says, you know, one city, one club. That's why they've got such a huge like supporter base.
Very similar to Newcastle.
it's like they're a huge, and that I think there were mentions like before, like Newcastle were bought, that like that they were going to get some more money at Leeds, and someone was, and I think Leeds have been one of those ones that have not nearly been bought quite a few times by, which you would think that they would be prime candidates for that, because as I say, like they've got a massive supporter base. But yeah, when you kind of see what they've done, I think a lot of it has been to do with getting the right manager at the right time who did really well with the means that they had. Now, when they're back in the Premier League, you've got to now question, have they got the means to stay there? You'd say with all the injuries that they've had, the fact that they've probably not done, the right amount of business that they've needed to do when they've had the chance, says that they are going to suffer. At the beginning of the season, when we were talking about relegation a couple of months ago, I was like, Bielsa's too good a manager to go down. It'll be a real shame for a club as big as Leeds, to go down. But now, when you look at what Burnley have done, in the last few games as well, you think you've got to be worried, don't you?
Newcastle are pulling away. Burnley are pulling away. They're playing tonight. I think it's still 0-0. They've got a lot of nous about. Do not underestimate Roy Hodgson. Watford will fight and fight. They will claw points here, there, and everywhere. Norwich are dead. I think Brentford have got to watch it. They're in a bit of free fall. And
I think I can see
Everton need to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I'd like to see Burnley, Brentford, and Norwich are down anyway, so they're not. I'd like to see Burnley and Brentford as the other two teams, but at the minute, it's unlikely. I think it will be a real shame for Leeds to go down, because, like I say, from where they were, at the beginning of the 90s, at the beginning of the Premier League, to go all the way down and then to get all the way back up is a massive feat in itself. And now there's already talk of them having to sell players like Rafinha and that, which is exactly what happened to them before.
With Newcastle circling in the north of England, they will get plundered. Every bit, Phillips will go, Rafinha will go. You might think Dan James might go, Ayling. I don't know.
Jack Harrison's a quality player as well.
Yeah, Harrison will get.
He's a really good player, that kid.
I think Leeds will stay up. I
hope they do. I think it's good for the league.
Who knows? I mean, we don't know much about this guy. I mean, he says he's a go for it manager, but I'm not certain he's got the resources to do that. I think at this stage in the game, you want a Roy Hodgson. You want someone on an interim incentive to tighten it up, marshal it up, and stay in the bloody league.
Yeah, and then think about like rebuilding or whatever after that once you've managed to stay up. But it's a huge, huge gamble.
Next game for Leeds as well is Leicester on Saturday. So that ain't going to be an easy game.
I mean, it's such a big gamble.
Their only comfort is Leicester are playing tonight and Leeds have got a week's rest. And at this stage of the season, that does count. Just like I was saying about City and United. It's like having a European match. I think Leicester are having a humdinger, a tough game against Burnley. And then to play again with fresh legs Leeds on Saturday.
They've got Aston Villa, which is still not an easy game for them, but that's at home.
They won't win that.
They have to beat Norwich at home if they don't get it. And then they've got Wolves, and then they've got Southampton. So really only one of those out of there you think that's a banker of 3 points. They're going to have to.
I'm worried for Leeds. I'm really worried for Leeds. I want them to stay up. Really want them to stay up. But I'm not certain they've got the Warriors.
This guy to right. I mean, he's from.
They've not got the Warriors. They've not got Warriors to dig in and keep him in that league the way that Burnley have, Newcastle have, and Watford.
Have they just been watching Ted Lasso and thought, well,
I just think it's such a gamble, isn't it? And that's what I think it's like. I'm not sure how often the ownership's changed. Like in the last few years, I think it has changed once. But again, my brother-in-law, who's a fan, has said that they're crazy. Like the things that they do, and like the actual things they've done with the management and everything in the last few years has been like.
It was a nailed-on move for Fat Sam to come in.
You would, just give him a chance.
Don't call him Fat, Ian. Come on, we don't like to
Big Sam. Yeah,
Big Sam,
fat,
yeah. Big Sam.
It's Fat Frank, isn't it? Fat Frank, but not Big Sam.
Sorry, Frank.
It's an unknown entity, isn't it? And
Spurs are back out, by the way.
They're watching. They are watching right now. So I don't want to upset Big Sam and normal Frank.
Yeah,
I'd say
I wouldn't want Big Sam coming around my house.
it's no disrespect to the
Five floors
American
up there,
game.
never
Oh,
make it
Big
up the
Sam is
stairs.
that's the way you're thinking of America, isn't it? So it's Big Sam, Uncle Sam. So Leeds have got Uncle Sam coming in, haven't they? Like, but instead of Big Sam,
the wrong Sam.
yeah.
Do you think they know that Ted Lasso is a fictional story? It's not actually a real team. So maybe they watched Ted Lasso and they
It's
were
all
like,
shot at Palace, isn't it? That's all shot at Palace, isn't
yeah,
it?
that's it. Maybe they were like Richmond FC. He got them.
It was a
got
bit
them up.
like when Ricky Tomlinson got to manage England. What was the movie?
The Damned United, is it? That's not.
No.
Tough one, isn't it? Yeah,
It was the one. Ricky Tomlinson was the actor.
Yeah, I know the thing.
Somebody England manager, and then Sam Allardyce got appointed England manager, and it was a bit. It was like that, wasn't it?
Yeah,
But Big Sam, his kind of record of keeping teams up is kind of gone now, isn't it? He's
but it's still it's like Wenger though, you know, top four. It's like, oh yeah, he lost his top four record, but if then you put his stats, he's still the best, you know, best bets like mathematically or statistically that you could say would keep you in the top four because he's done it. He's still done it more than anyone else, even though he's not got a perfect record, you know. And I think that's the thing. It's the unknown entity. Again, coming to Leeds is getting an American, and it's no disrespect to the American game, but it is in many ways very, very different to ours. It's far behind, especially a team like Leeds. Is that like such an unknown entity at this point that it's just such a gamble, isn't it? And you've got to be thinking now, right? We win our game in hand. We're above Brentford. Then we just need to put in a good string of performances. We need to take points and get everything we can for the rest of the season. Is that what you know? Is that the mentality you're gonna want to have coming in? Now he might come in and he might revolutionise, you know, Leeds. But I think the Premier League
he's got the personnel to do it. I watched that team.
Yeah,
there's no warriors. There's no, you know, because Bielsa's managed them for so long. They aren't drilled. They're undisciplined. They're like a pack of wild horses. So my heart says I want Leeds to stay up, but my brain says no. They're not going to.
You need someone as well who understands
most
the
of those
league.
Players only know the Bielsa way.
But and that's why I think a manager needs to understand the league, because when you come in and you've got like a players again who have played a very specific system under a manager for a long time, you can't come in and go, oh well, I'm now going to introduce all of these things. That's pre-season that you want to start that. You know, like at this point, you want someone who knows the league more than the team, because that's going to make more of a difference, I think, because they will be able to look at it realistically, know what games they need to be picking up points from. You know, where they're going to be able to kind of shore up the team to make sure they do that.
Outside the box, Harry Kane's just outside the D.
Here we go.
He's going to sky
I'll walk you through it.
He's going to
Harry Kane's playing. Literally, it's a classic position just outside the D.
He's going to sky it.
He's miscued it completely into the wall. It just, you know, when you were describing that David Seaman grass cutter, he just did that into the wall. That was the most hopeless free kick I've ever seen.
Well, on that note, I think we should end the program there on a good, positive note.
Come on, Borough.
Come on, Borough.
Good luck, Leeds. We will watch the situation as it unfolds. Thank you, everyone who's watched live. If anyone's rewatching back, please give us a like and subscribe to FTV Sports. Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you very much, Ian, for coming on the show. We will have another show. So basically what I do now is I do the comedy show every other week and the serious FTV Sports show every other week as well. So, mix it up. And guys, I'm sure if you want to come on the top comedy show and I mean,
we're not invited because we're not funny, are we?
Oh, to be honest, I thought that was a bit more suited. I was just like, it's to be serious.
Basically,
invite me on. I'll
basically, we wanted to get the first one out of the way. That was our pilot episode, just to introduce me.
We'll talk crap for an hour.
And we talked about dick pics for a long time.
Yeah. I don't know whether I'll be able to make that, but I've heard Roy Keane might be able to make an appearance for you.
That's it. It was like, well, Roy is coming on the next one. So thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been an honour and a pleasure. And what did we say again? Come on the Borough.